Morning, everybody. Ooh, it's a little loud. Thanks for coming today. Wanted to thank Jim McCrae for cooking today. Thank you very much, Jim. Delicious as always. He even throws in the special eggnog French toast, so thank you. And Bernice, who's out sick today, so I wanted to thank the staff for stepping up and helping in the kitchen. So Beverly, and then we had Elizabeth and Sue, so thank you, ladies. And just a couple of quick announcements before you hear our main attraction. Tuesday, we're actually closing at noon for Christmas Eve, so we will be here in the morning. We're closed Wednesday, but then we are open Thursday and Friday, and business as usual, so please come around. Remember to sign up if you're here for a visit as well, so when you come in, we do this big annual report for the state, and it helps our statistics. So if you're here for a program, you're also here in the building, you're here socializing. If you can just tap that on the screen, the My Senior Center screen when you come on, that would be greatly appreciated. And then if you plan on going away, we get charged for any newsletters that are returned to us. Even if you're temporarily away. So if you could let us know, we'll kind of put you on hold for the mailing list, and then you just let us know when you're back, and we'll add you right back in. That would help. So wanted to thank especially this special holiday season, John for coming, and his guest, Peter Light. I'm going to hand it over. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, for everything you and your team does here at the Senior Center. Welcome to the Java with John program. Thank you for being here. This program is a monthly event that we hold here at the Senior Center, and we've been doing it for 5 or 6 years. A resident mentioned the other day that he looked online and there were more than 60 episodes recorded from our past. So I want to thank ActonTV for being a partner and helping not just broadcast it live, but also keep them so people want to check out what was happening 3 years ago, they can go back and look. But we are broadcasting live. If you do have a question, which is again the most important part of this event, I'm going to have to repeat your question so the viewing audience can hear you from home, and we look forward to getting into that part of the program. So I have a special guest today, and I'm going to introduce him in a minute. But first, I wanted to go through a little bit of, is this anybody's first time to this program, to this event? Okay, well, I'm going to start from the beginning then. So my name is John Mangiaratti. I've been the town manager here since 2018, and this is a great place to work. I've worked in other communities. I worked in Andover, I've worked in Westford, and I'm really proud to be the town manager here in Acton. I grew up in Attleboro, which is a city in the southern part of the state, and I live next door in Westford. I have a family, my wife's a teacher, and we love being part of the communities that are nearby here. And this Acton organization, we had Festive Sweater Day yesterday, and I forgot, so I wore a festive tie today to make up for it, so I gotta go back to town hall to show everybody. No, so we usually at this program we'll talk about a few things that are happening in town and have some special guests, and then we'll just get questions from all of you. Questions, complaints, comments, anything you want to hear. I always want to hear what you've heard about on Facebook, so I can help you work through the factual part of that. And then you can share that with your friends. It's just part of the messaging that we're doing. It's a nonstop effort. So some things that are happening right now. Many of you were at town meeting last month. It was pretty well attended. 365 or so people were there. They took action on 5 very important articles. We're now preserving the Weatherby Conservation Land, which is the forest that you can see just beyond the agricultural field on Route 2, near the State Police Horse Barn. It's a beautiful piece of property, which will now be preserved forever. We also approved some union contracts, and we approved a new exemption for veterans, which I guess we talked about last time because it's all coming back to me. But in addition to that, we started working on the budget. Right now, we had our budget presentation on Monday night. Things are looking okay compared to past few years. A large part of that is because of the override that voters approved last year. We were really in a structural deficit going into that, and that override sort of righted the revenue picture. There are still challenges. There are still things that we're not able to do. There are still things that departments are asking for that we can't fund, but we're in a much more stable position than we were before. So I really appreciate folks for their support for that override last year. And then going into that, one of the biggest issues that we're talking about in Town Hall and in the community is the Public Works facility. We have a Public Works facility that was built in the 60s. At that time, it was built for a town of about 10,000 people with half as many roads and half as many sidewalks, or probably very few sidewalks back then, I'm not really sure. And we've grown a lot since then. Our department has grown, our vehicles have grown, but the building has stayed the same. It's reached its end of its useful life. The Public Works operations are not going to substantially change anytime in the next dozens of 50 of years. I don't really see a way that we can avoid the core mission of the Public Works Department, which is maintaining our roads, maintaining our stormwater infrastructure. Those are all things we're going to have to do forever. And we're going to need a facility for them to be able to work out of. So we have a design for a new facility. It's expensive. Everything's expensive. If you've bought anything lately, you know it's more than you wanted it to be. This Public Works facility right now is sitting in the $40 million range, all in. And we're working very hard with a committee to try to value engineer that cost to get it down. But that's a project that the Select Board have prioritized as the #1 goal. And we're working very hard to bring that forward to town meeting and to a town election this year. We'll continue to publish information about it and answer questions about it, and it'll be a big topic this winter that we hope. If you have questions, I'd love to hear them. I think we're scheduling a tour of the facility, the current facility. If you've ever been in there, you're welcome to come and check that out. We also, through ActonTV, did a tour last year. And that video is available to watch if you just want to check it out. It's at actonma.gov/DPW facility. And I encourage you to look at that website because there's a lot of other information on there as well. So the other things that are happening throughout the town, road work. I was behind a huge concrete form on the back of a large flatbed truck today. And I got close enough to read the label, and it said powder mill. And what it is that huge parking garage. I don't know if you've seen it, but the apartments at Powder Mill is going to have a 5-story parking garage. And it's already up, but they're doing it with steel, but they're doing it with mostly concrete forms. And so I rode behind one on my way down here today. So that's a really interesting project. It's going to be 230 units of apartments, 25% affordable. And they're moving, so that's exciting. Kelly's Corner, I drove through that to get here too. That's really looking good. My son had a basketball game at R.J. Gray the other night because the middle schools play each other, and all the parents were complaining to me about the roads to get there. I said, hey, I'm off duty. But it's progress, right? I know the superintendent's office gets some complaints about it too because the school parents have to deal with it every morning. But about a year from now, we'll be sitting pretty, and we're going to love it. You can already see it. You can already see where it's wider. In front of Roach Brothers, now that sidewalk curbing is in, you can see what that's going to look like. It's all coming together. So I appreciate your patience, and I know that it's going to be worth the wait. And then we have other projects going on throughout town, but I'll get to those based on any questions you have. I really want to take a moment to thank my partner over at the school district, Peter Light. Peter and I started on the same day, and we've been in this together the whole time through. He's doing some really exciting and innovative things over at the school district, and his leadership has brought some really cool changes to what they do over there. And he's been to the show a few times. Maybe 5, maybe more, but we're excited to have him back here this morning, and I want to introduce Peter Light, Superintendent of Schools.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad John just wrapped up with Kelly's Corner because it's actually a real moment of joy for me when I get a concern from someone about the road work, because I actually can just forward it to him and say, that's not my project. So no, in all seriousness, we're really glad that that work's being done, because it's going to make it a lot more accessible for our students and families, and create a safer passage between our campus and Kelly's Corner, where we know a lot of our students frequent. Am I doing something wrong? Should I step over here? We'll see if this works better. Yeah. A few things. One, I actually want to start with some gratitude for our community, and in particular, volunteers over at the Resource Center. If you don't know what the Resource Center is, it's actually something that we received a state earmark last year to be able to do some small renovations in a portion of our admin building at no cost to our community, but it was funded through the state level budget, where we recognized there's significantly increasing needs in Acton and Boxborough among our community members who need to get connected with a variety of resources. And so we actually reached out to the United Way in Acton and Boxborough, ended up in a really significant partnership with them. And they're now housed in our school administration building in something called the Acton Boxborough Resource Center. We just finished up our holiday gift drive, and we were actually, through just extraordinary generosity of the community and all the volunteers who did that gift drive, we were actually able to give out holiday gifts for 71 families that served 156 kids in our community. So really awesome experience, and I just want to thank everyone who was involved with that. I will also say that we've given out over 440 winter coats as well this year to members of the community, and that is anyone who lives in our communities is welcome to come in. We actually have winter coats, a variety of clothing options, school supplies, sneakers, backpack, winter boots for really anyone up from birth through senior citizens. We have a variety of resources, and then the Acton Boxborough United Way has volunteers that staff that speak all the different languages of our community, who can help connect people with other resources that they may need outside of just the schools. So it's a great partnership. It's extremely low cost. We do it through a lot of volunteer work, and just we're really thrilled to be able to have that going. So thank you to everyone who has assisted in some way, and we might have people in here who have volunteered. If you're interested in volunteering, you can reach out to Acton Boxborough United Way. I know they're always looking for volunteers for things as well. Also, just want to say thank you. Has anybody here participated in our Senior Reads program? Awesome, thank you. So we have that up and running. It took us a little extra time this year to get it up and running in all of our schools. Unfortunately, the staff that had been organizing it over the last few years aren't with us anymore. So we had to think of where the appropriate home for that program would be, so it took us a little bit more time. But we do have an active Senior Reads program, and so if you're interested in going into an elementary school in our district and reading to a class of students, please see anyone here at the senior desk, and they can connect you with the right people to get volunteering for that. We typically do kind of a fall cohort of seniors coming into our classrooms, and then we try and do that again in the spring. So want to make you aware of that. One of the significant steps, and I think the school district budget is in a little different place than the town budget. So the school district budget, one of the steps our school committee had committed to and kind of on the heels of the override and, in recognition of limited resources of the community, was to do an elementary budget task force. The reason they chose to start really looking hard at elementary schools is the number one piece of feedback that they received during the budget process last year was, what is the cost of this elementary choice that we have for families to be able to choose, and all of the different buses that go around. So they formed a task force. It had a broad range of people in the community who participated. It wasn't just our staff, but we certainly had educators, we had non-licensed staff participating, we had some administrators, although most of us were just watching the process unfold. And then we also had community members who did not have kids in the schools, including members that we reached out to because they were skeptical of the school budget, and we wanted to invite them into the process. So that budget task force has been meeting and working with a consultant that took all of our financial data, enrollment, staffing, and really crunched all of our numbers for us. Interestingly, the punchline of all of that is the consultant actually came back to us and said, if you want to look at school choice for any reason in the world, do it, but don't do it for financial reasons, because you're actually saving between $500,000 and $700,000 a year by doing it the way you're doing it. The reason for that was the benefit is we can control our staffing across schools really, really carefully. And when they looked at it, every classroom we have at the elementary level is right within the school committee guidelines for class size. And in order to increase that, you'd have to be adding like 5, 6, and even more students to a classroom in order to get any savings around elementary educators. The cost of school choice is in transportation. However, because we're a regional district, we actually get almost all of our transportation reimbursed by the state the next year. So what he said was, you're probably saving $500,000 or more on staff every year, and you're spending a total of $300,000 total on elementary transportation out of the school district budget, which is a really, really small amount of money for a school district to be spending on transportation as a net of everything we bring in. So what we thought we were going into it was not what came out of it. We thought, based on community feedback and kind of initial thinking about it, we thought maybe there was, $1 million in there. It's not, it's actually saving us money. So it's not something that I see us pursuing because to get out of school choice, we would actually have to spend more money. So that was one thing that came out of it. We will have to look at our staffing model over the next few years. The bottom line is for schools, there's really two drivers that drive cost. It's the salaries for staff and it's health insurance at this point. We fixed a major health insurance problem last year by going out of the Acton Health Insurance Trust. We avoided almost a 25% increase on health insurance costs for everyone. But health insurance everywhere is going up at extraordinarily fast rates. And so, while it's not 25%, it's still going to be 10 or 11% this year. And our school committee came into the year and started the year by saying, we're going to cap school spending at 3% increase for next year. That is typically what's considered a very moderate rate of growth. So they capped revenues at 3%. It does mean that we're probably going to have to reduce somewhere around $2 million out of the budget again. We got the override last year. That was fantastic. What we're seeing for schools everywhere is, like Belmont was in the same position. They passed an override last year. They have a $2 million deficit again this year. The cost of the personnel and health insurance are just driving things a lot faster than anyone can keep up with. I think that's probably going to be a multi-year pattern for us. We've told our staff that. We're telling our school committee that. We're just in a period of time, kind of like around 2008, 2009, where the revenues coming into the schools are just not going to keep up with expenses. So, I think our school committee recognizes that, people were extraordinarily generous last year. Obviously the override passed, but it was by a narrow margin, and that there's going to be a cap on resources as we move forward. So just want to let you know that's happening. We're examining everything closely. We will come out with our budget recommendations at the end of January, and you can certainly follow that process. A couple other announcements. If you had a chance, we are actually really looking at trying to pause on what we're doing educationally and take a step back and rethink kind of what we want for outcomes for our students out of our schools. So we're developing something called a vision of a graduate, which is a community-based process to get feedback around the types of knowledge, skills, habits of mind that we want our kids to develop while they're with us that can kind of guide the next iteration of what we're trying to do with our teaching and learning and curriculum. So we're in that process. We have a survey. We've just kind of left it open for community members. But if you're interested in doing that, we'd love to have you participate. I think we've tried to send it out in a variety of different ways, but we will, also forward that over to the senior center, so maybe they can send that link out to you again. But we really want a broad group of community members giving us input into what you think is most important for our kids to be learning and thinking about as they go through our schools. Obviously happy to take any questions, but hopefully that's a little bit quick snapshot of things going on in schools. And probably either John or I are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Where does our school stand in terms of ratings?
Yeah, we continue to be in the top. So the question was, where do our schools stand in terms of like ratings in the state? We continue to be in the top 10 of all school districts in the state, which is, Newton, Newton, Wellesley, Needham, things like that. We're Lexington, we're Concord, we're very comparable to all of those districts. Who ends up number one or number two is usually, a matter of like 1 point on an SAT score or something like that. They look at a variety of factors when different groups do rankings, including what's your class size, how much do you spend per student, SAT scores, MCAS scores, things like that.
Is there another task force about closing an elementary?
So we looked at that last year. Last year, our enrollment report looked at projected out over the next 10 years to go slightly up in enrollment. This year it's come down. So we're trying to make sense of what that means long term. We know there's a lot of new housing. I think the challenge we saw last year was if we closed an elementary school and then we got more students, we'd have a really hard time housing them. We have brought a lot of special education programs to the school district over the last 5 to 7 years. And when we bring programs into the district and we develop programs inside our schools, it allows students who live in our community to be able to continue to attend school here and receive the special education services that they need. It also saves a lot of cost for student to the community because we're able to provide those services in a more efficient way than sometimes our outside of district programs. In order to do that, we have to allocate a lot of space within our classrooms that the schools that are older were not designed for. And if we start closing classrooms, we have to be really careful because if we start closing classrooms and they impact those special education programs, all it would take probably were 7 or 8 students who currently are in our schools to have to go to an out-of-district school to offset the total cost of what we would save from closing a school. So we're trying to be thoughtful about looking at it as we make sense of enrollment. So there's not a task force currently, but we've certainly been keeping an eye on enrollments, classrooms available in the district, types of programs that we run so that we can monitor that internally and try and make some decisions over the long term.
So renovating a school is not on the table just to keep special ed programs?
So the school committee has to make that decision. Last year, they voted not to move forward in trying to renovate Conant and kind of pause and let the dust settle. So, they'll have to kind of make that decision every year. I can't speak for them, but I think they're sensitive to kind of where the community is at whole with its resources. I know they're thinking about kind of student needs, thinking about enrollment and all of the different factors that we have. Sure.
I'm a new resident of Acton, or a refugee from Concord, and I'm so impressed by the commitment to diversity and sustainability in the school system. My grandson is at Gates, and he's in school in terms of sustainability. I wonder what the school district is going to be doing in reference to electric vehicle buses, and also solar panels added to the high school.
Yeah. So the question was around what are the sustainability initiatives of the school district. I'm actually glad you brought that up. One of the questions was around our electric school buses. We were excited. We mentioned at one of our school committee meetings and an update to them. We had received about $500,000 from the federal government toward the purchase of an electric school bus. Actually, it was $200,000 from the federal government. But then the state was going to kick in another about $1.5 million in grant funds toward that same program. So that's actually going to allow us to purchase, no cost to us, about 4 electric school buses. So we're working through that process with a vendor now. We're hoping to have those for next fall. That will mean we have to have charging infrastructure to it. I think one of the challenges all school districts are facing, if you want to move to a large-scale electric school bus initiative, which is one of the largest things you can do for sustainability, you have to be able to have charging infrastructure for 40 buses that can charge at a rate that it's usable a couple of times a day. So that would be kind of a longer-term challenge for us, but we have the internal capacity to at least get 4 up and running. So we're working on that right now. Most of our schools already have solar panels on the roof. The high school actually has solar panels, and we have a large-scale battery storage array attached to those solar panels at the high school. Not only does that allow us to store energy, but it also feeds back to the grid and reduces costs to the school district as well. So it's not only good for the environment, it's actually good for the budget too, which was, I think, an important consideration in anything we do. We have a proposal in over at Boardwalk campus for a battery storage array there too. We were pausing to just do some additional safety assessments on that because we want to be thoughtful anytime a battery array is next to a school. So we've been going to a couple consultants to do some independent safety audits of that project. And that would be tied into solar panels on that school as well, because the school is actually designed to produce as much energy as it consumes. So that's something that we've been working on as well. The district partnered with the town of Acton to do a decarbonization roadmap, which our school committee adopted, and they have an update to their sustainability policy in the works that prioritizes a variety of factors around sustainability. Actually, our students led the initiative for us, which was great. And then they do have a goal that when it's economically feasible, we will be purchasing electric or hybrid vehicles before we purchase gas-powered vehicles or diesel vehicles. So a lot of things have to line up that becomes economically feasible, but that is certainly something the school committee is committed to.
Just going back up to the resource center, so I assume that we can donate codes, and I assume that should be new, right?
So the question was, talking about the resource center, and the question, can we donate coats? And do they have to be new? No, we actually take donations of new and used items at the resource center. If you follow the news, there's a lot of clothing waste that goes on in the world, and we certainly want to be able to recycle within our community good quality clothing that might be lightly used or used, but still usable. So we have a donation bin right outside our administration building that you can come in anytime and just do drop-offs. They sort through it, and what's usable they will use and give out and repurpose back into the community. And if something for some reason isn't usable, they actually recycle that.
So is that like year-round donations of regular clothes too?
Yeah, we take, the donations are year-round to that.
Where is that administration building?
Our administration building is 15 Charter Road in Acton. It's right across from the junior high school.
What does Acton do about MCAS?
Great question. See, what I did is I actually purposely left off some of the questions you would have, knowing we'd get to them anyway. It allows you to ask the question. So, as you know, statewide, there was an overwhelming vote to remove MCAS as a graduation requirement. The wording of that measure was not nearly as hopeful as it sounds. And so it's going to be more nuanced. I actually just updated the school committee on it because the state just told us what we would have to do. So interestingly, if you looked at communities that voted either for or against it, Acton did not support removing MCAS, nor did Boxborough. However, statewide, it overwhelmingly passed. So this is now what's happening. Unfortunately, it's actually going to add more layers of work and bureaucracy onto school districts because they're coming off the state, and the school districts are going to have to now do that work. We have always had graduation requirements, but in addition, what we're being told is we will now have to develop something called a competency determination that's outside of graduation requirements that aligns with the areas that MCAS used to test, so math, English, and science. We will have to develop those measures locally. We will have to track who has passed it, report those students to the state, and kind of go there, as well as monitoring our graduation requirements. This is all hot off the presses in the last 48 hours to us, so we're kind of working through that process. I think it's going to be complicated, and we really only have until May to figure this out because The law was passed in November, went into effect, I think, December 5th, and we're just being told about it, you know, in the second week of December about what we're going to need to do for it, so it's complicated right now.
Can the town opt to keep MCAS in place?
So essentially, no. That was part of the wording of the law, is this competency determination that kids had to pass. It used to be passing the statewide MCAS. It now has to be locally developed, and it cannot be MCAS. We still have to, we still have to give MCAS to all of our students. And if we get low participation rates at any of our grade levels, it drops our accountability ratings. But it's no longer required for a student to get a high school diploma. So that's the nuance of it. It actually doesn't save us anything, and it looks like it's going to end up costing us more money in the long run.
Well, thank you, Peter, for the update on everything. Nice to see you.
That was a happy note I got to end on.
Well, you have a closing statement? No. Go ahead.
So just a closing statement, you know, seriously. One, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. I hope you all have a great New Year. Just want to recognize all of the tremendous support we have from everyone in Acton and Boxborough, and you are an integral part of that. I would just remind you, if you want to get into our schools and you want to read to kids, please see someone at the desk and they can help you get signed up for our Senior Reads program, and thank you.
Just on that, can I make one comment?
Sure.
It's a great program. Reading to these kids and then asking them questions and seeing their comments back. I mean, these kids, you know, looking at things like giving and helping people out, and it was wonderful. So I highly recommend it.
Who picks the books?
The librarian picks the book. And if you want to hear more, you know, the book I read was about basically helping people. And the kids are really good at that, and they talked about how their own family helps people.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Good. Awesome.
Nice work.
For all age kids?
Yeah, here you go. I'm still going.
So the question was that for all age students? We do that in our elementary schools. High school students are different and have different needs. We couldn't do it this fall, but what we have done in the past is we have had seniors come into the high school. We do a really short tour, and then we actually have lunch between seniors, senior citizens, and our high school students, just to talk about what's going on in each other's lives as a way of building some intergenerational bridges. But the Senior Reads program is definitely elementary schools. I would be fearful to go read to a class of high school students. I don't know what would happen.
Agreed. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
So we do have a few more minutes. I thought of a couple of things I wanted to tell you while we were listening and learning about the schools. Yeah, anybody over here Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift. So she's not coming to Acton next year, but we have a tribute, a very popular national touring act that's a Taylor Swift tribute, and they'll be coming August 22nd as part of our summer concert series. We've already sold 200 plus tickets, and it's in August. So I think it's going to be the hottest ticket in town. I'm giving you all a heads up that if you love that kind of music or you know someone that does, get them some tickets. We also have a great Led Zeppelin band that comes here, an Elton John tribute. We're going to do another fun 4th of July event this summer. So in the middle of winter, I just wanted to get you thinking about summer and thinking ahead to our summer concert series. And so Nara Park is 25 years old, if you can believe that. It's quite a unique property that we have. We're lucky to have that in our community. And our summer concert series is right around the corner. So any other questions about the town or anything else? Yes?
You brought this up last season, don't you? I think your associate, Bill's name, that came on board. Where River Street is one-way part of it now, but no traffic's going up Chadwick. So I mentioned that it would be nice to have some kind of a mirror on School Street before you go over that hill. Because sometimes it's iffy getting out there and cars are zooming up over a hill.
Yeah. So the question is about can we put a mirror to help with visibility at the corner of School and Chadwick or River and Chadwick. I'm not big on mirrors that we install. That just creates a different level of liability for us. I think I would encourage you to just take it slow, look 3 times, and then go. That's my advice, because I can't trust the mirrors.
I think it's great you put the stop lights at the TD Bank and Roach Brothers parking lot. That's really tough.
So I asked for an update on the traffic signals because they're all there and they look like they're ready, but apparently they're not fully wired, and so they're not ready to turn them on yet. But I'm going to keep pushing every month for those traffic signals to be turned on in Kelly's Corner.
One more thing, I think there's more construction or something going on behind the CVS on Mass Ave. They were going to put something back there.
Hopefully, once this infrastructure project is done, the whole place is going to come alive. I mean, Stop and Shop opened last week, a beautiful new modern grocery store with all kinds of takeout options. The McDonald's building, I talked to the realtor that's doing the project, and she said there's a ton of interest. And so it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. I don't know what's going on behind CVS, but hopefully it's something good. And I think more things will be popping up as that. Before it was inefficient and kind of nondescript. Over the last few years, it's been kind of a mess. But going forward, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. And I think it's going to really change the way people feel. People from different communities drive through Acton every day, and they never even noticed that intersection. They didn't realize that that's the center of our entire community right there. I think going forward, they're going to realize that they're in Acton and that they're in Kelly's Corner, and it's a real place. And I think that's something that the visionaries who started this project 25 years ago, or whenever it was, and the Kelly's Corner Steering Committee, all the work that they did to get us to this point is finally coming to fruition, and it's really exciting. So, yes, a question over here.
Yeah, is that project on time? What's the timeline?
So it was scheduled to be a 3 to 5 year project. I always thought it should be a 3-year project. We just we're finishing our second year, I believe. So Kristen Guichard is our planning director. She's sort of the project lead for the town, even though it's a state project. And she says that we should be done in a year, which is on schedule. Yes.
Could you give an update on the food pantry, that building that is going to be?
Yes, so the old concrete forms business that is next to the train station on Maple Street, which used to be Gordon Richards' building, the town bought that a few years ago for parking. We issued an RFP to see if there was any interesting use that we could have for that building. The Acton Food Pantry, which is currently in Boxborough, gave us a proposal, and we approved it. And they are currently planning a renovation for that space to use it as a food pantry. We're leasing it to them for $1 a year or $1 a month. And it's going to be a very important hub for people with food security issues. Right now, the area in Boxborough is a little bit challenging to get to. The parking lot's tough. The space is small. They're going to do this, and it's going to be really nice. They had a $300,000 earmark from Senator Eldridge. That we had a celebration about that a few weeks ago. And so I think that'll be, the construction will happen this winter, and they're hoping to be up and running next year. So that's an exciting new resource for the community. Thanks for asking that.
Hi, I wanted to ask about Acton 250. Is that the library or recreation, or how do you access the information?
Thank you. So the Acton 250, Acton played a pivotal role in our country's early stages. And the select board a few years ago created a committee called the 250th Committee. And it's led by volunteers. Steve Trimble is the chair, and several community members are part of that committee. And they've done a ton of programming over the last year or so, walking tours in the center, different events. All the information is online at actonma.gov/250. They have partnered with the library. A lot of the events are at the library because it's a cultural center here in the community. They also partnered with a local brewery to create a Isaac Davis Brown Ale. A couple artists to create a new mural. We're actually starting a project right now. You know when you go into town hall, the wooden box with glass on it with the plow in it? Through the 250th Committee's leadership, we're redoing that space and making a better case for that with light, and there's an artist that put a mural that'll go behind that. So it's going to look really nice. We just put that out to bid, and our plan is to have that ready before April 19th, hopefully sooner. There's more programming that we just announced, actually on the website, actonma.gov/250, and I encourage you to check that out. Thank you for the question. They're doing a great job. Question from the camera crew.
I heard that the Acton Fire Department had to perform an ice rescue recently in our park. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, wow, look at this. He's a real member of the media, huh? Wow. Yes, we had a film crew doing a zombie movie at Narrow Park earlier this week, and they apparently had a scene where they were on the water with a canoe, and things got out of hand, and they went in the ice. And our fire department had to respond. I think that by the time they got there, things were under control because the water, fortunately, it wasn't that thick and it wasn't that cold, so it worked out. But yeah, don't go on thin ice, even if you're a zombie. It's still not safe. But our department was there and ready to provide life-saving care. They did transport people to the hospital. I believe everyone's okay. Interestingly, we do make a lot of movies in this town. It's a picturesque community. I think it's got a unique setting, historic homes. We had a movie filmed in our police station earlier this year. We had a few in historic homes. We've had 4 movies in the last 3 months. We actually have a film permit process to help make it easier for people to figure out what they need to get for approvals. So Hollywood East, right here, Acton. Maybe, we'll see. Thanks for the question. Any other questions, comments, complaints?
Any updates on restaurants coming in?
Yes, thank you. Restaurants coming in. So we have Luna Mexican Restaurant at the old Bickford's and the old As Good As It Gets on Great Road. There will be 1, 2, or potentially 3 restaurants at the Stop and Shop site. That's to be determined because they have 3 different areas where people can go. What else do we have? Silver Girl in West Acton on Arlington Street, the old orange door building. What do people know it as? Savory Lane. Savory Lane. They have a soft opening already, and I don't know when their full opening is, but that's supposed to be. It's the owners of the cheese shop, so they know how to do things right. So it's going to be a good spot. There's also a place, where Holy Grail was, next to the bike shop on Great Road. That's going to be a new cafe, a lounge type space too, and they're hoping to open early 2025. I think it's called Velvet Vine. So a lot of exciting new places, new business owners trying out here at Acton, and I encourage you to check them out. Thank you for the question. And there's more coming. Penny Funioli is Health and Family Services Director. Any other restaurants that are getting permitting through health that we should know about?
I believe those are the top right now.
Okay, thank you. Anything else going on out there? So thanks for asking about 17 Woodbury Lane, my favorite project. So the yellow house behind Town Hall? That's been, a family lived there 30 years ago, but the town bought it and we haven't done anything with it since. We used it for a septic system. Well, we finally put all the pieces together. We have a plan, we have the design, we have federal, state, local, CPA funds. We have a contractor, and we're going to break ground next month. It's going to be an indoor-outdoor community space. It'll be used for programs. The space inside isn't this big, but it's probably between this bay of windows to here. So this many tables could fit in there, and we can have a nice event in there. It'll better support the outside space. $750,000 grant from the federal government, so mostly paid from outside sources, and it'll really tie the Town Hall Memorial Library campus together. It's been disjointed having that there in its current state. So I really think it's going to tie the whole place together. So check that out this summer. Yes?
Still putting solar panels in the old Grace property eventually?
Yes, so you may have seen the truck traffic from the solar panel construction project at the Grace property. It started already. It started last month, and it takes a while, but it'll be a pretty big solar project there that'll come online in 2025.
No housing, right? No apartments.
No, it's just solar, yeah. Yeah, that's all I got for you. McManus Manor, we're closing on that property. The housing authority is closing on that property this week. before the end of the year. They want to close on it and start that. The drilling under Route 2 for the sewer, they did it once. It didn't work the way it was supposed to, so they're doing it again, and it'll work this time, I'm sure. The dog park, we got funding for that. We got a contractor for that. That's moving forward too. So all these things that I mentioned, grants, external funding, MassWorks, Stanton Foundation, several other things. We bring in grants all over the place to try to make sure that we're maximizing what we're actually spending here locally. Happy holidays to everyone. Enjoy the weekend and watch out for the snow. And we'll see you all next year. Thank you.